guy that a lot of you love is on hold. And he was the runner-up of the Smackoff this year, as well as 2 other years. This was part of his call from this last year when he went to a familiar target. This is how you know it's good. It's an easy target, it's a popular target, and it's still hilarious. This is Mike and Indy, this year's Smackoff, runner-up on Ray Ray.
Vic got hooked by Jay Moore harder than Ray Ray got hooked on that episode of Bait Car. Ray Ray was cruising down the road with a big smile on his dumb face. Then all of a sudden the locks slammed down, the engine cuts off. Man, the look on Ray Ray's face was priceless. I can only imagine Vic had a similar look on his face when he hung up the phone this year.
That's a call that a lot of people thought should win. Unfortunately, none of the people who matter thought that it should win, and hence the discord. So, I am joined by a caller to the Jim Rome Show who comes to us from Indy. This is someone that I personally met on Radio Row in Indianapolis and who has been a very loyal caller for several years to this show. I am now interviewing him. I'm going to go to Indy. Mike, how are you, man?
Good, KB. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for being in here. I know it's been a week since you called, obviously. And I want to ask you, Mike, how does it feel to be on the show as a guest, to actually be interviewed rather than just come in and lay out Brad and Ray Ray?
Well, it's definitely a special moment. I'm honored to be here as a guest. People like Brad and Vic can't say that. So, yeah, I'm definitely honored.
You're right. Now, the only comeback to that is that both Brad and Vic have been sort of interviewed by Jim at the end of the Smackoff when they've won. You have not yet. That's why we're talking. Mike, we're a week away. We're a week removed from Smackoff 2012, where you came in second place again. How are you handling it?
You know, I'm starting to come to terms with it. There's nothing I can do about it now at this point in time. You know, it's frustrating. It's definitely something that's going to stick with me for a while. But, you know, there's nothing I can do at this point. Got to look forward.
I like your attitude, and I like the attitude of this interview of getting right to the chase, which we're going to do right now. Mike, immediately after the results were announced, clones started emailing, they started texting, they started tweeting the show that the fix was in, that it was somehow rigged in favor of champion Chael Sonnen. Let me ask you, did you think that the Smackoff was fixed?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to everybody that did have my back. Definitely appreciate that. They came through huge, and it means a lot to me. I don't think it was necessarily fixed. The way I kind of see it, I think that the judges kind of got caught up in the moment. You know, it was kind of a big deal having Chael on. He delivered a pretty good call. I mean, delivery-wise, he was good. You know, I can see people getting hype about that. You know, his first call to Smackoff. And, you know, that's the only thing I can chalk it up to is that, you know, I still don't think it was a winning call. But you know, I can kind of see how the judges could be influenced by a call like that from Chael.
I hear what you're saying, Mike, and you're saying a lot of interesting things there. First of all, let me address this on the mic because I haven't done it myself. Mike said he didn't necessarily think it was fixed, and I'm sure Mike knows, necessarily is a very slippery word. It means I don't want to go all the way and say I don't think it was fixed, and that's fine. Anyone can think whatever they want. I can say personally that it absolutely was not fixed. If you think that we got the choice wrong, you're entitled to your opinion. But I can assure you there was nothing unjust going on, and there's no scenario in which Jim would fix the thing that is the biggest, most reactive show of the year for him that he's been doing for 18 years. There's no money he's going to take. I've seen that crap about the relationship with UFC. The relationship with UFC is fine. We put their guys on. They have sponsored the show in the past. They're not a sponsor now. There's nothing like that going on at all. And I give you my word on my family that it was not fixed, nor will it ever be. Now, back to you, Mike. You also talked about Chael's call. See, the thing that I've said, and I'll say now, is that it was just... It did knock us on our ass. You're right. It knocked us on our ass because it had so much energy. It was so fast. It was so efficient. And it felt fresh. It felt different. And what I've said before is I think you by far had the funniest call. I really do. If it was just purely who had the funniest call, Mike and Indy is the champ. I think Chael, and this is a tough word because it's sort of subjective, I think Chael was a little stronger. Like he was throwing punches where you were making us all laugh. One of the complaints, I'm going to ask you now, Mike, one of the complaints about Chael's call was that it didn't include a lot of smack directed at other clones. Philosophically, do you agree with that? And where do you come out on that? What is the right percentage of clone smack versus sports take?
Well, I do think that was a weak part of Chael's call, and I know it's tough for him to, you know, kind of get into that groove the way the rest of us already are, as far as knowing the clones as well as the rest of Hollywood about not having phones, not having a good phone.
Right. He took a little run. Excuse me. He took a little run at Jay Moore. I think he might have hit Brad and Corona. I don't remember. I know he hit Jay Moore because Jay Moore's the easiest target on the field.
Yeah, Jay is an easy target. That's why I usually don't even say anything about him. But as far as the ratio of clone to sports takes, if you look at the history of the jungle, what is it usually going there? That's usually what I kind of base mine off of. I think usually it's approximately 75%, maybe 60% back in the day, but about 75% clone stuff and maybe 25% sports takes. I try to, pay homage to the old school guys by including sports takes in my call. Brad obviously doesn't, but he won. So, I still think that about 25% sports takes is right. But, if we go to like 80% sports takes, I think the Smackoff would lose a lot of its luster.
I agree with you. One of the best parts of it is a shin-kicking contest, and I agree. And the reason you finished second is because you're really good at doing both of them, Mike. Now, one thing you talked about is when you're listening to these guys, what different combinations they go with, what percentages of smack versus sports. On that day, when we're finishing the calls and Jim's running down the top 10, you knew you were probably going to be towards the top. If it wasn't Chael, then who was it that you were really sweating that, oh man, this guy might have won it?
I thought Frady rekindled the magic. I didn't think his call was better than mine, but he had a really solid call. And, really, he dismantled Brad pretty good, in my opinion. Really, with the steps he went through on a Brad Corona call, and it's all 100% true. Everybody knows it. Everything Frady broke down right there. Brad really has no comeback for that. And I also liked when he threw in the Goodbye Bradley, Queen of Corona. That was pretty solid. I like that.
No, I have Frady is amazing. And I think Jim said this, that I get the impression that he, tunes in the day before or not even, and just writes a call that's incredible. He could win it every year just like you. The difference is we haven't got you to win it yet, Mike, and that brings us to where we are. There's something that's developed in the wake of the apparent controversy that you are now like the people's champ. You're the one that everyone's rooting for. You're the one that got job, that always finishes second. You're the one who's going to be a fan favorite in 2013. Does that add pressure to you when you show up next year?
There's already been a lot of pressure on me already.
Not like this, Mike.
Yeah. I don't know. I think after this year, more so than ever, I'm more confident that, I'm the best caller there is. Arguably, I should have 3 out of 4 of these last Smackoffs, and there's a lot of people that put that argument forth. And, some people say that, I'm the best caller to never win it. In my opinion, I think I'm the best caller, period.
That's awesome, Mike. I definitely will agree with you that you're one of the best, and I think you might be the current funniest. Now, let me just take a little time to get into who is Mike in Indy. All right, let me talk to you a little bit about your process. Mike, you live in Indianapolis, or you live in like kind of suburban Indiana around there?
Yeah, I live in Indy.
Okay, and you born and raised in Indy?
No. I've been in Indy for the last 15 years.
And how long have you listened to the jungle?
Probably about the last, let me think, probably the last 6 years.
How often do you listen?
I listen as much as I can. I'm pretty busy. Usually I have to catch up on the podcast.
Sure.
I try to listen on my phone as much as possible with iHeartRadio or something like that when I get the chance.
Mike, what do you do? What are you busy doing? What do you do? Tell me about yourself. What do you do?
I do a little bit of everything, KB.
Now, you're going to play that one close to the vest, aren't you, Mike?
Yeah, kind of have to, just for business reasons.
I get it, dude. I get it, and I respect it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to wrap this up, Mike. I'm going to ask two more things. One, other than Brad, who are the clones in the Smackoff? I wouldn't even call them clones. Let's call them callers in the Smackoff, who just really grind your gears, who you just can't stand. It would really piss you off if they won, other than Brad.
Israel really pisses me off with the frequency of his mediocre calls.
Yeah.
I think he just doesn't really get it. But I don't even concern myself with being concerned if he did win, because we all know that would never happen. He just doesn't have it. Something about Mark in Hollywood kind of frustrates me a little bit, because I think he kind of thought he was just going to come in and just kind of deliver some mediocre delivered it really well, he might have had a chance, but...
No, you're right, Mike, if I could jump in. Everyone thought the Oompa Loompa thing was great. I thought the punchlines were a little weak. He sung really well. The song was well executed, but I didn't think the actual jokes within the song were that good.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. So if it's any consolation to Mark, that wasn't a winning call regardless of the phone. Also, a lot of people think that rookies, and people got excited about Mark in Boston. I do think Mark in Boston has some game, but people think it's easy for a rookie to just roll up in here and maybe take this thing. But the jungle historians can research this. But I don't think any rookies had a top 5 since me and Brad went 1-2 back in 2009.
I remember it well. Mike, I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to give you the floor. Is there anything you'd like to say? You are now the people's champ. You have gone 3 times runner-up. A lot of people care about your opinions on the Smackoff, your opinions on the field. Chael Sonnen has the crown for the next year, like it or not, everyone. Mike, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Well, just as uncomfortable as I'd probably feel if I got into the octagon with Chael, he should feel just as uncomfortable getting into my octagon this next year. And as far as the rest of the clones, again, as long as I do what I do, I know I'm going to have a winning call next year. I don't think the collective brain power of all the callers put together is going to be able to handle what I'm going to put down next year.
There he is, Mike. I do declare, that was good stuff, and thank you for coming in, man.
Thanks, KB. Appreciate it.
Don't be a stranger, dude. See you later. Yep. That's Mike and Indy. I just did an interview with the Smackoff guy, and he said that he doesn't necessarily think the fix was in. He said that he can't stand Israel. He had a problem with Mark in Hollywood. I was expecting him to go Vic there. I mean, isn't that the obvious answer when the guy that you don't want to win? But he didn't go Vic, and he has a good attitude. I see a lot of people on Twitter who are so disillusioned and bitter because it wasn't who they wanted and they think it was wrong. The guy who should be disillusioned and bitter isn't. Sure, he's pissed that he didn't win, but he's not saying, I'm done, this thing's fixed, this thing is a sham, I'm out of here. No, he'll be back next year. He's probably will be the favorite to win. And that was just a great interview. React to that if you want. I know that's very inside for some of you people listening. That's a very, very jungle thing. But I figure if I'm going to guest host, there's not other guest hosts who can do that. I'm here every day. I understand, Mike. I understand what happened last week, and I wanted to give you some insight to it. React to it if you want. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to The Jim Rome Show.